Interview with Kenny McCarthy on the something of May, and we'll begin. How you doing?
Good.
Fantastic. So, first of all, what is your name?
Kenny McCartney.
And is it M-A-C or M-C?
McCartney.
M-E-Y. McCartney. And which local church did you serve at?
Dalkeith Baptist Church.
And for how long were you in that position?
4 years and a bit. Just a bit, maybe a month or so.
And what was your position?
Youth pastor.
And when you were there, did the church have any active youth mission?
When you say mission, can you be more specific?
Youth work, outreach to youth, working with any youth involving the gospel?
When I began, it was quite small and fragmented, as they didn't have a youth worker at the time, and they hadn't had a youth worker for probably 10 years or so. So I was brought in to grow that ministry and give a direction to it.
And so practically, how did that grow?
Slowly at first, and it was primarily driven by the youth who were already in the church and their peers. In fact, some of those peers included Allison, who would come along occasionally, not as their primary church home. In fact, there's a number of young people who it wasn't their primary church home, but the primary gathering times were outside of the main church gathering times on Sunday morning, so they could come along and join in.
And you mentioned gatherings. Were these specific events or one-offs?
Both. Did some work with Touchdown UK. Did some work with a group from Texas that came over to do holiday clubs. We always had a Sunday night gathering, so it was just basically a youth group. And we tried to do things during the week. Admittedly, that didn't go as well. Also, whenever school holidays was on, we did all that stuff. And I was invited into Dalkeith High School, so made some connections and some young people there.
So what was it you did in the high school?
I started a scripture union group, which went so well that upon my departure, it was carried on by the pupils who I originally started it with, and it was led by the pupils, which I think is one of the biggest blessings that I saw, that some of these young people would carry on ministry even into CUs in university.
So in terms of the wider area of Dalkeith, what would you say is the state of the youth mission?
We found, quite bizarrely, Dalkeith to be quite isolated. Pretty much the bypass was the barrier. If anything was happening north of the bypass, numbers would drop off really big, apart from PowerPoint. I'll give you an example. For many years, I pushed for us to come to Stage and Slam because I knew Tom and Andy, and I couldn't get support. There was some interest with the young people, but it wasn't allowed to be a priority from the diaconate, because they wanted all of our efforts to go into camps and weekends away and things like that, which is fair enough. But I really thought we could have done both. So that's a kind of a regret from that time. Um, so apart from the barrier, the rest of Midlothian was relatively well connected. It wasn't an issue to get young people from Woodburn or Eskbank, which I trust you're familiar with. So both of those kind of completely different socioeconomic backgrounds could easily come together in Dalkeith Town Center. And of course, we could even occasionally get a Gorebridge person. So when I say isolated, I really mean that Dalkeith was isolated to Midlothian in a way that I really haven't put my finger on since.
So again, in terms of the wider youth mission, do you know of any other churches engaging in youth mission in Dalkeith?
St. John's in Kings Park does quite a lot, not all of which I was privy to or am privy to at this point. We did some things that overlapped. We did a couple of holiday clubs in which we partnered with them. I think 3. And we also tried to relaunch something called NYC, which is New Youth Club. That was actually unsuccessful, and it closed down after the first summer.
So in your time at the Dalkeith Baptist, do you know if your church worked with any parachurch organisations?
None that were youth related, apart from Scripture Union. And even that was just a association. However, in saying that, a number of the young people would go to Scripture Union camps, but again, I just consider that an association.
You already. My next question would have been which one was youth related, but you've already mentioned SU. Were there any others, just in case?
I should probably mention Girls Brigade. Sorry, that slipped my mind. Actually, that's comically, that's one of the biggest associations that we had.
And was working with these particular parachurch organisations, did it aid your church's youth mission at all?
Did it? Sorry?
Aid your youth mission at all?
Be more specific.
So were there things that you maybe couldn't do that you could do as a result of partnering with these people, or were there things that they offered you that were unavailable to you previous to partnering with them or being associated with them?
Sorry, I've never actually thought about that, so I'm just thinking.
It's okay.
Yeah, I reckon it allowed us to motivate and enthuse kind of older believers and people who had come from the church who otherwise would not have been back to church. So I'm thinking of kind of girls and a few boys who normally would have been off to uni and never would have come back to church, but they maintained a link through their service to something like Girls Brigade, for example, or something like partnering with a SU group in a school. A few of these were nominal believers, but it kind of gave them a different flag to fly and another mission to be a part of, and something that they did quite proudly. And it might be down to the uniform organization kind of mentality of service anyway, which they would have grown up in.